Good morning, Lorcana Goons. This is Kevin. I am here with Zach Stone, owner of Stone Brand Cards, for a Market Watch video. Say hi, Zach.
Yo, what's good, everyone?
All right, if you're not familiar with Zach Stone, he is a card vendor in Southern California, very well known for Yu-Gi-Oh! And also also being known now for Lorcana. You can catch him at Frankenson's at his booth M4, I believe. If you need any Lorcana needs, hit up Zach Stone. But how you doing today, Zach?
Can we do
What's
a podcast together, Kevin?
Oh yeah, we also do a podcast together for on the Your Games Online channel, which is another channel with 2,000 subscribers. So go subscribe to that one, and then check us out on our podcast where we talk about
Talk
Yu-Gi-Oh.
about all trading card games and your games online, guys. Let us know what you guys want to hear.
Yep. We are looking today in the beginning at the first page of the TCG player when you type in Lorcana, just so we can quickly say to you guys, do not buy these pre-orders. Pre-orders are not worth it for Chapter 2. It's a waste of money and a scam, basically. What do you think, Zach?
So those pre-orders I think are a little artificial and not necessarily like the genuine prices. I've definitely heard of people, buying their own pre-orders, refunding them later on, just kind of like, getting that sort of like say sold price on the sales history. So, other than that, I don't know if this is the case for this situation. It's not something that I know. However, keep in mind that like it's better just to kind of like wait closer till. I don't think that these prices will go higher at all. You can see them go lower, and you'll see them dip down. A lot of the local game stores too are already like letting customers know that if they're offering pre-orders, they're not going to be at these kind of prices. They're going to be more reasonable. Again, though, it is something to consider based on the secondary market that you might be just paying a little bit more than MSRP for right now.
Yeah, these kind of prices with this one dude listing it at $1,300 nearly. Shipping included though, I guess, right? You get the shipping with it. But $1,300 if you would like to pre-order this gift set, which is probably going to be found at Target for $40. Obviously impossible to find,
Yeah,
but even the resale on an offer up is probably going to be $100. So just wait a little bit. But anyways,
yeah. Do we know the card list for the starter decks too?
no, we don't know the entire card list yet. We only know obviously the cover
Yeah.
cards and just like random rumors with like
Nice,
information that's
nice.
been leaked.
Okay,
But
okay.
we'll go ahead and start off with our next card on this list that we wanted to talk about today. It's going to be Fishbone Quill. Fishbone Quill seeing a rise in popularity, right, Zach? You're saying everybody's been asking for this card.
People want to play blue all of a sudden. So this is a card that I saw literally at $3 around like last weekend, and it is starting to trickle around back up to five. Cold foils have not really changed prices. If you look at sales history, though, they're kind of all over the place. You see some cold foils selling at four, some cold foils selling at 7 and 8. So I generally like to say it's around the $8 card. I like to always say that like the prices you see sold don't always include their shipping, and you don't know what the shipping cost would have been. But there are consistent sales above the almost $5 price point now, and we're just trickling to the point where it's just going to start going up and being more of like a staple. Um,
Oh
I'm
wow.
sorry, blue is going to be more of a staple in the meta. I think you're also seeing like Amber Sapphire starting to like peak up, and then there's not a chance they don't play cards like this with extra draw power. Um, and don't get it twisted, guys. It's part of the OTK with Maurice and Ariel.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, the Maurice and Ariel with Tomatoa, or even just that deck is pretty crazy when it gets that 20 lore on you in one turn. And in general, yeah, I've seen a lot more people kind of drop the almost Amethyst Ruby deck because it was super popular. People are kind of expanding their card pool now. So Fishbone Quill, get yours if you don't want to see it. Because I remember at one point these were selling for like $7-8. Like in the first like 2 weeks of Lorcana, these were selling really high. So I don't see why these wouldn't go back up at some point if that ends up being such a popular deck, right? But another card in the blue deck that is kind of doing the opposite, ironically enough, you were telling me, right, Zach, is going to be Hades Infernal Schemer. Look at this guy. He's all the way down under the $30 mark now, confidently hitting that, bouncing up off 25. What you thinking about that?
Hades is one of these cards that I think people over time are realizing it's less impactful than they thought. Its ability to be a body on top of a let it go does give it, I think, more utility. However, it starts to really take effect when you give your opponent more ink to play with, and that is something that I've also learned too, where I'm shifting characters, and when they target those characters with cards like Hades and Let It Go, I get two extra cards in my ink, and that's super impactful. I actually get to play the game a lot more efficiently. Um, and I'm on Steel Emerald, so it's a lot more of like a quicker strategy, and I don't think the blue deck can take the time to like get to the 7 ink and play Hades and actually have it long enough to be an impact. It can sing your songs, and for the Sapphire Steel deck, it is pretty good because you get to sing cards like Grab Your Swords and Whole New World. Um, but I think it's a little less impactful if it had like maybe one more lore, or just some more willpower, or maybe even a little bit more strength. I think it can really like be a much better card. But for its stats and for its cost and non-ink ability, it's very tough. Again, it's blue, so you get Quill to ink anything that's non-inkable. But
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, the unink ability makes it harder to splash in other decks if you're playing like blue something else, because then you kind of do rely on just needing to ink it, or needing Fishbone Quill to ink it. I would hope that this card sees a little bit more like viability, maybe in the future sets. Maybe it's just like the fact that it's bad against like aggro decks, it's just maybe why we're seeing it drop down. I actually had a couple of these and I sold them a couple weeks ago. I traded them actually for an enchanted rare, which I'm very glad I did because enchanted rares are keeping their price value, whereas cards like this we're seeing kind of fall off a little bit. Well, next card we got
Yeah. The
next.
flavor text, however, I do want to say this. The flavor text even says he's got to have a weakness. That is his weakness. He's got a lot of weaknesses,
Yeah,
and
actually.
there is a huge downside to him. So I love the premise. I love the lore involved with some of these cards. If you have anything that you guys have liked or seen, drop it down below because we definitely like the lore and Lorcana. And definitely wanting to talk about Land of the Free and Home of the Brave Mickey Taylor. I already know you're going to bring it up.
Yep, yeah, there you go. Like, very little Taylor. Kind of busting an American economy on us on this one. It completely kind of fell. Look at this. It was like at $30, 35. I mean, at its peak, it was bumping up because of the hype. When
Do
Lorcana
you see
first
the
came out.
sales history chart?
Yes.
I want to kind of talk about like
Yeah.
some of the flows, right? So even if we just look at like where the cold foil started at around like $70. They all dipped around the same time, and they all went up around the same time. So that's like a trend I want to kind of like point out is when the cold foils and the normals deviate that. I feel like when we're looking at a price where cold foils go up and normals go down, that's when you got to start kind of like believing in the cold foil card and the card itself as a cold foil versus the card itself. I think Brave Little Taylor should be believed in just a little bit more. I think its price point's just a little too low. It shouldn't be a $30 card though. Definitely should be a little bit higher. I think the people are very underestimating four lore on one card being evasive too.
Hmm.
That's very
Hmm.
strong.
Yeah, under $20 for this card is a little outrageous, and you've just given me a little bit of inspiration on what I'm looking for to when I'm buying in my next lots. I definitely think this is a powerhouse in some decks. The 8 mana is crazy, but even just like you were saying, the foil aspect of it, collecting this as a foil has a lot of like value in the future because it's just gonna be like the face of Lorcana. This was the first Mickey, like high
It,
powered Mickey we got that isn't the enchanted.
yes, it also is on the cover of the packs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do I
on
have a
one of
pack?
the packs. So
One of the
so
packs.
that being said, it is something to kind of keep an eye on, especially with cold foil trends. You see the cold foil version of this card definitely way more than double than the normal version, and not every legendary gets to have that,
Mm-hmm.
gets to say that about themselves.
Yeah,
So that's something to keep in mind.
not every card is even like that, honestly. Like exactly, like pulling a foil BLT still feels really good as opposed to like pulling a foil to Ka or pulling a foil what's it Gantu, even a foil beast. Oh,
Someone would be pretty happy if they pulled a foil piece. I know
I
who.
yeah, I'm a fan of Beast. But speaking of
Hard-headed or Wolfsbane?
the Wolf's Bane. Speaking of beasts and people who are beast, Cusco is a beast in this freaking market trend, man. Look at him going back up the ladder. Like I said 2 days ago. Remember I said 2 days ago, Cusco would probably be a really good card to buy, and because it's probably gonna go back up to 15. Wow. Why are there so many being listed at 20? It is crazy because wait, what? Is this really the only listings?
So
There's only 33 listings. Did somebody buy out Cusco's or something? I did not expect this. I thought I was gonna be at
no.
15.
Okay, let me refresh. Maybe I'm on a different. No, I got 62 listings.
Oh,
What are your
okay, okay.
filters at?
Oh, I'm still looking at the cold foils. I'm silly. There we go.
Cold
There.
foils, there is only about 19 verified sellers, and then like the normal versions definitely only hit about 15. However, this card's been 15 for a long time. It definitely went up too.
There we
Um,
go.
Before in the first week of September, we saw like a $25 price point. And again, something to consider is that like the trends when the cards are the same prices, like the trends are like the same as far as the cold foils and the normal versions go. When you see that, that's more of a consistency. But then there's a little trickle upwards here on the normal version. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people are starting to favor Emerald now because of the recent lists that have topped the PPG. So
Yeah.
I mean I gotta give it to them. They found out that that ward is pretty strong.
Not just the PPG. There was three events that happened over the weekend. Two of them were 1Ks. One was a Nintendo Switch tournament that was being streamed. We put videos and deck lists on all those tournaments on the channel, so go check them out. But yeah, exactly what you said, man. Those tournaments made a huge impact on what people want to play now. I know personally, I've been making decks on Pixelborn with those lists, and I'm kind of like, man, I shouldn't have sold my Surfer Stitches. I shouldn't have sold this. I shouldn't have sold this because I just want to play all these decks now. But it's all in circulation. It all comes back. But like yeah, Emerald is definitely a top contender. I think of this weekend. There was a lot of tournaments, some even bigger than the PBG. Where Emerald didn't even stand out, but who did stand out like indefinitely in all those tournaments was the Amber favorite Rapunzel. I saw Rapunzel in like so many deck lists over the weekend, and this card is just gonna keep its value for a while, man. I'm telling you, I think it's probably gonna hit back over 60 again very soon. And then like we were talking about holofoils too, the cold foil Rapunzel is one of those other ones that is like almost double its price if you pull it non-foil. So what's the deal with Rapunzel? Why is that like that as opposed to like somebody like Cusco who's not necessarily double the price if you pull a foil, even though they're both good.
I think that one symbol in the bottom, in the center of the card, that little symbol that looks like a triangle in comparison to some gold, like belt logo. I think that's
uh,
a big reason why it's a legendary. This
uh,
legendary card is also one of the strongest legendary cards, and an Ember is one of the most like prevalent colors to play right now. I think that like Amber Steel Song deck is like very strong. A lot of people are just playing this deck. You do see the Lemon Lime aggro having to play Rapunzel, of course, is like its only way of draw power. However, for a 4 cost, 2 lore, and has 5 willpower, it's going to stick on the board. And a lot of people also aren't looking at Amber for its support characteristics. So these low strengths, high willpower characters actually can become like huge bodies to trade with when you combo them with support characters. So cards like the Musketeer Goofy, for example, or
Moana.
I'm trying to think of a couple.
Moana has a
Yeah,
really high
exactly.
has 6 willpower, I believe, and 3 lore. So it is just like you said, 1 strength as well. So it has kind of that princess stat. But putting that in decks that already have cards with evasive, like giving your opponent a lot of struggles. Yeah, it's too many big booties to try and get around when you combo off with something like Rapunzel, which just lets you draw when you save them from being banished.
Yeah, and she's inkable too. So if you see her early, she's just something you can put in your inkwell, and that's something that I think a lot of people like. Like they like to rationalize certain card choices, like oh, you can ink it, right? Well,
Hmm.
let's play the best cards that we can play that are inkable too, right? So Rapunzel has to be one of the best cards you can play that are inkable.
Okay, okay. And then, yeah, man. So if you have some foil Rapunzels and you're looking to make a little money, I think then for this week might be a good week for you. I do think this card is definitely gonna keep seeing play in Chapter 2. Also, I just don't see it ever being an irrelevant card. The effect is so good.
it's going up, and until you see it trending downward, you don't even have to sell it right away. But it's
Hmm.
good money. It's good money now. If you need cards to fix, like to finish another deck, and that's something that you pull extra, definitely let it go. No pun intended.
Yeah, definitely let it go. So, speaking of singing songs, we have Ariel, the spectacular singer, um, still above that ten
Well,
dollar mark, even like 12 bucks.
I gotta talk about the cold foils, man. Holy crap!
Oh
These
wow,
cold foils are double the normal version, and the normal version starting to go up too. This is
damn.
a really strong card, guys. Like like we come from a game of Yu-Gi-Oh where you play a lot of cards to gain a lot of cards. Now this game is very slow, so a
Hmm.
card that you play that gains you another card is very strong,
A plus one. It's a literal
especially when you
plus
put
one.
it into play and not like exalt it. By the way, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually kind of wild. Like that, this is one of the cards that was super slept on in the beginning of the set. I remember I picked these up for $5 a piece, dude. I should have picked up the foils. Now that I'm seeing that they're $20 foils each now, I didn't think, or 25 even some of them. I didn't think it was going to be like this much of a difference and like basically double the price. But I really like this card. The moment I read this card, I thought like, oh, so this card just gets you a free song like for no reason. Like there's no, if you're shoving your deck with songs, there's no reason why this card never gets you a plus one. Most of the time, you're getting either a BR guest or even a Kuna Matata just to use as ink. It's a free ink. It's actually kind of wild that people just didn't care about this card. And 10 to $12, like you were saying, is fair. I think it's a pretty fair price. Still, if you want to pick it up for like decks or even future decks, because again, Ariel seems like a card that you're probably going to use in a lot of Amber decks in the future as well. Effects that are kind of like you said, generic, that generate card advantage, that you can just splash in, are just gonna hold value. And it's a super rare, so it's not even a rare; it's a super, a little bit more rare.
Yeah, it's willpower of three. It definitely makes it smashable, but it does not die to grab your swords or giant fairy Tinkerbell right off the bat.
Or cannons.
Fire the cannons cannot clean it up in one shot, and it can be a problem if it sticks because it's singing 5 cost songs on turn 4, and that's actually like very good for the Ember Steel deck. So this is one of these cards that like will get better over time as more songs come out. That
Mhm.
is something to always keep in mind too. Like these kind of cards will get better when they release more cards.
Yeah, I didn't even think about what happens when more songs come out. But speaking of songs and
Yeah,
singing songs and music, we got Rockstar Stitch over here. One of my favorite cards personally. Again, another one where the foil is like double the price and of the and I say and this card's still under $15. Again, I don't think this card should be this cheap. This card is so good, and but I'm gonna start picking up some foils now that I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna pick up some foils for this card probably soon because 20, 25.
these
I guess still kind of high.
16, yeah, $16 on the normal version. And again, I look at verified sellers just because like I feel like I have more confidence and more trust when I purchase from them. They have the ratings that make me feel better, and then they have the amount of sales that, based off that amount of ratings, means that they're very, very, very consistent. Like, um, you have to really consider like who you're buying your cards from, and always be mindful when you're buying from a stranger. But TCG player is a little bit more of a safer blanket. They do guarantee and assure that your satisfaction will be there, and you're also dealing with individual sellers. On top of that, TCG's customer support can always take care of you guys. So I really want people to be more confident and feel safe when they are making those purchases. But then check the feedback. Always make sure you're looking at verified sales. And if you're spending maybe $1 or two just for that peace of mind, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I probably will
But
look into this for
that
some stuff.
card, this card is underrated. Like you get to play like the Simba, and you get to play him normal, and he just becomes bodyguarded anyway, and you get a free card. Like what kind of stuff is that?
Yeah, I've been playing this it's a Amber Sapphire deck that I saw from one of the lists from this weekend, and it plays Rockstar Stitch as well as Surfer Stitch, and it plays stuff like Grandma Tala, Phil, and even those characters, like being able to play them and exert them so that you can draw a card like Grandma Tala is so nice because you're already kind of hoping that that they challenge your Grandma Tala. So that but and then now it's even like, challengeable on the first turn you play it. So like again, cards like this slept on get better over time when more cards come out. Well, who knows what kind of two drops or less are going to come out? You know?
And when you shift him, he is just 3 lore right away. So some of the lemon lime aggro decks that play him can just get 3 lore right off the bat. And that's one of the best mechanics I think that this game has to offer. There's not many things that let you play a character and quest with them on the turn they're played. That's very strong.
Hmm.
For Shift to be able to do that, I think is very underrated. So be careful. Don't just think you're safe just because they can't quest enough on what they have on board. They can just shift a character and quest with that.
Yep, yep. Speaking of a board, I can wipe your board with grab your sword. You mentioned this earlier.
Ah,
Yeah, you mentioned this card earlier in the
this
stream.
card comes out in the starter deck, and it's a $5 card still out of the starter deck. You only get one copy, and there's a reason why. They knew that this card was good. But cold foils being $15 in comparison is ridiculous. That is a huge uptick, and that is something to really, really think about. Cold foils, in terms of value and longevity, especially these cards that come out of the starter decks that aren't cold foil, for example, like Aurora or the Simba. Um, those are something to really think about because you cannot get them that often.
Yeah, man, it's actually kind of wild that the cold foil is such a big difference on this card. I forgot that it came out in a starter deck, but yeah, they only give you that one. And cold foil definitely gonna hold its value on this. I don't see this card going anywhere. I think it's gonna last a long time in the Lorcana verse. Hopefully this card sees play in the
Like how
future.
many
So.
people complain? How many people complain when you play this card against them?
Oh yeah, how many? You know how crazy it is when they go activate Grab Your Swords, and then I'm gonna sing another Grab Your Swords in the same turn. It's just kind of it's just
Or
four
or
damage.
shift Tink
Yep,
and sing it on turn 4
three
so you do 3
damage,
AoE. Yeah,
three.
that's something to complain about like a Karen, right?
Yep, like a Karen. You know who looks like a Karen, Zach? Tell me who looks like a Karen.
Ursula looks like a freaking Karen to me. Every time I see her, I don't like looking at her. She literally looks like somebody that would complain about her fries being cold.
Oh yeah, yeah, and maybe it's the card art specifically. It's like she's like looking at her order like that's messed up, and she's like, I'm getting ready to
No, she's like
complain.
seething, like, oh yes, I get to call corporate.
It's past me. Show me your manager crystal ball.
I know, I know. I mean, she's got 3 lore. She's like, quest, quest, quest. Ooh, lore's so good.
Oh, I know. It's a really good card. I this card was super slept on when it came out. Remember, it was like a $5. People were selling this at the same price they were selling Gantu and Taka, and I thought that was crazy. The 3 lore it draws a card and minuses a lore on your opponent. What? That's very
Yeah.
yeah, definitely some carrying activity. But look at the price though. We're talking about the price today, not just the effect. So
And something to really, really like be mindful about when you look at like prices and like where they stand. We see the cold foil trending downward, but this was at $50, 50
yeah,
plus
that
for
was
a
a little
cold foil
too
at one
much.
point.
It had to trend
And I
downward.
remember so many people wanting to sell them to me. And I looked at that and I said, you know what? This is probably the one thing I don't want to buy right now. I don't want to lowball you. So just I'll come back. I'll think about this one, but not right now, man.
Yeah, it's
And
so
that was
weird.
it.
Why was the cold foil selling for like triple the price?
I guess when you complain to corporate so much and talk about how low you are, you might get up there. You might start getting up there.
Uh,
But her ability is something to really think about if you ever have to play against multiple people. It does say each opponent.
mm,
So if you're playing like a 3-way or 4-way battle, and like I don't know how that works. That sounds cool, but you do get to remove 1 lore from each of them, and that might be something to think about if that ever becomes important. Like this card will have intrinsic value in its own sense, but it's not inkable, and it is pretty fat as far as its willpower goes. So it's going to stick there, and it's going to quest for 3 after you play her. Other than that, though, I think she's will see less play, especially as like time goes on and the control decks start to build their strategies more against aggro decks. This card will probably be seeing its way out first before anything else.
mm, okay, okay.
But don't get me wrong, she'll definitely stay there. Oh, she'll be here to stay if the control matchup becomes more prevalent. Because drawing cards, any way to draw cards is just better. And this is like on turn 7, something that you can actually like play, and it's more of a threat because you'll just quest for 3 every time.
Quest. I definitely think that
What else
this.
Quest for 3 though?
Yeah, it does Quest for 3. I definitely think that playing this with an Aladdin is also kind of wild because they can't run into it and survive if you're just an Aladdin next to it. You know, then you're really on top. Then you're really on top of it. You're really scheming against them. But speaking of schemes, the last card I want to talk about was going to be Hans the Scheming Prince. This is just the exact opposite of what we were saying. I know it's a rare, but I wanted to ask you, why do you think the cold foil price for this card is so dang close to the actual non-foil price of this card? They're basically the same price. They're only off by a dollar, maybe a couple cents. So, is there any reason why, or why
Yeah,
people just want to just buy all the
there,
foils?
there's there's no reason why this card shouldn't be at least $5 more than its normal version. If you're telling me the normal version's 8 and the cold foil is 10, I just think a lot of people are starting to like kind of just like get the card right away, and they might be noticing that like their cold foils are not selling, and
Mm,
they want to like lessen the price to get them to sell. But when you notice them that close, like when you notice the one same seller has a cold foil for $10 as they have a normal for 8, it starts to get a little bit questionable. And I don't see why you wouldn't just pay that dollar extra and get the cold foil. And I think it's something that's going to change and reflect soon. I don't see this being permanent.
right?
This will be something people will target too. There's a lot of whales in the Disney world, so they
Yeah.
don't mind targeting things like that. And plus, he's a villain.
Yeah, the definite whales. There's always been whales in the TCG world, and now that it's a Disney IP, there's definitely going to be a little bit more of an involvement. We've seen it with the Target gurus that are really good at hunting restocks and whatnot, and those are. I feel like those people are an entirely different like type of person than what like we're doing, you know. So and then that's going to make an impact. But I do want to see I do want to see a justified value for foil Hans. So I'm gonna pick up a playset soon. That way I can see how that goes. But yeah. Anything else you want to add before we end this market watch today, Scheme and Zach?
I can definitely say with each week as more events and more people get into the game, we're gonna see different changes. I'm curious to see what happens when more product is released into the market when there's a actual real supply for the demand of their product. However, until that changes, these prices are not coming down anytime soon. And if you want to play, you'll have to pay. So I do appreciate those stores that are allowing proxies and allowing people to get freshly introduced, allowing alternative formats or even draft formats. And there are some stores that refuse to sell product just so they can support their price support for the game. So kudos to them. Kudos to the shops that are really doing the most and putting themselves out there. They're the ones you have to really think about in the long term because they're the ones doing it now when there's not much available.
Heck yeah, man. And thank you, Lorcana Goons, for watching. If you know any shops that are doing, great support for the game, drop them in the comments below. We appreciate you guys. Lorcana Goons out. You have a nice day, my fellow goons. Thank you, Zach.
Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.